podcast now, it's a little less about, okay, Anna, so like, where did you start out? Tell me your story. It's more so just kind of shooting the poop wherever it goes.
Yeah.
Yep. Do you have anybody working for you?
Yeah. I have a couple of people working for me, a sales guy and then a service guy, and then have a little network of folks sort of all over that help me with service work.
Sure.
So, yeah.
So, and you got your sales guy a little bit ago. It was like maybe a year ago?
So he started in September, so right smack dab in the middle of COVID, and then he had a non-compete. So he came from like 15 years of experience in sewer, storm, utility.
Really?
Started off as like a nozzle salesman and then sold Vac-Ons, which is a vacuum truck manufacturer, and sort of moved his way through. So I hired him in hopes that he would obviously know a lot more than me. And he's older than me. And he's a great personality, but just a great guy. But he's out of his non-compete, and he's happy to be sort of wheeling and dealing now. He's doing very well.
Sure.
Yeah. So
non-competes are a funny thing because, like, you want to do the right thing. You want to be like, no, I won't do it. But they're also, I think they're super lame.
They are, absolutely. I mean, they restrict you for, people specialize in this stuff for a reason, and it's natural to move throughout the industry, right? And to find something different. What's really interesting about him is that, you talk to him and you think, oh, he's been in the business for 15 years. Like, he's going to be bitter. He's going to be this. He's going to be that. But like, I sat him down and talked to him last week, and he was like, I literally feel like a kid in a candy store because I feel the same things that I felt when I first started, and it's different. And I'm like, well, I hope that's the environment that I brought you into, and the product lines and all that stuff. But it's so cool to see someone like that and to sort of feel that energy all over again.
Well, and when you're selling something, you can only really you can be kind of effective if you don't really like what you're selling. But if you really like what you're selling, if you're really stoked on it, you can kick ass.
Oh, I mean, you've heard me talk about Gavax for as long as I've known you, and I geek out over it. But I was so fortunate because, you guys, the rental industry, most of the time, rental guys are dealers. So they sell that particular product, and that's what they have to rent. If you're a cat dealer, you're renting cat equipment.
Yeah.
I was so fortunate to be in a part of a rental company that we could buy anything we wanted. We weren't a dealer. So I got to test everything. I was the one fielding the calls that was like, hey, this is what we're having issues with this. Also drive it like you rent it. No one treats rental equipment well at all. So it's people were tearing stuff up on purpose, basically. And when we started introducing this product into the fleet, it changed everything. Cost of ownership, operator downtime. I mean, it was blatantly obvious to the books, and it was blatantly obvious to even salesmen and mechanics' phone calls.
Sure.
So, I mean, that sounds like a sales pitch, but I say it, and it proved it. So, I couldn't be more stoked about it, and I think that does exude. That's probably something that he gets super excited about as well.
Yeah.
Because, we've all dealt with different products in our lifetime that we probably weren't so happy with.
So that's how you officially or originally found Gavax?
Yeah, in the rental business. Yeah, they literally, when you're in that position as a non-dealer equipment rental company, everybody wants your business, right? And so, I think for a long time our owner was like, let's try this product. It was really expensive. It's at the top of market price for sure.
Yeah.
More of a boutique style custom equipment manufacturer. And introduced into the fleet, finally got our hands on some stuff, and we were like blown away. And it all goes back to the mechanics too. Whatever the mechanics are saying, it's like you got to go with it. Whatever the operators are saying, you got to go with it. You can't deny it at a certain point.
What were you with, a big rental company or small?
So when I started with a company called Vac2Go, we had about 30 trucks. That's it. So anything from air machines to combo trucks, which is what I deal with a lot.
Yeah.
jet vacs,
Yeah.
basically. Liquid vacs. So a little bit more diverse than what I sell now. We had 30 trucks. I think it was like 32 trucks. First truck I rented was SCV 19. And we got to 200 trucks in like 3 years
Holy
after
smokes.
that. Yeah.
So it was a vacuum truck rental business.
Vacuum truck rental and high pressurized water blaster.
Can you explain what the hell a vacuum truck is? Because once I honestly didn't know what they were. And growing up, you'd see them around. And I remember my mom saying, like, that thing sucks up poop, which there's some truth to that.
There is some truth to it.
It can suck up poop. It can suck up whatever.
Yeah.
But then I saw them at work for the first time when I started in the construction industry. We were daylighting and trying to figure out where some utilities were. And I was like, whoa, so that's how that thing works.
Yeah.
What the hell does a vac truck do?
So there's a lot of different types of vacuum trucks. You can go from like the septic side, which is just a totally different world, like plumber world. And then the industrial side sort of starts with what we call a liquid vacuum truck, which is basically like a vane pump that vacuums like straight liquid. You see them rolling down the road, like it advances up into like tankers. Next level, I would say, would be like a big air machine. So like, coal plant, vacuuming dry material, power outages, like sort of the everyday truck is an air machine. So like that would be like a guzzler. Gavax makes an HV. So it vacuums at, 27 inches of mercury. It will literally suck your arm off if you accidentally put your hand under there.
Yeah.
And vacuums dry material. And then like my industry, they all have water pumps around them or on them. A jet vac essentially jets a sewer, a storm line, culvert, whatever it may be, and then vacuums at the same time. So you have a nozzle, and then you have, then it vacuums the poop per se.
Yes.
Next level, what the yellow iron people are so interested in is hydro excavation because it's, there's fiber under the ground, there's, gas lines, water lines, whatever. Like that's not going to stop. Stuff is going to keep getting put in the ground, whether you like it or not. Well, it's all rated at a certain pressure. You hit it with an excavator, you're done for, right? You hit a gas line, you're in a lot of trouble. So a hydro excavator essentially excavates safely with water at about 2,500 pounds of pressure, preventing any sort of kaboom.
Yeah, it's so when and for people that don't know, when you're putting in a new water line down a street, you're going to call locates and they're going to say, well, there's a gas line right here.
Yeah.
We're pretty sure, but not 100% sure.
Not 100%.
So then some guy comes out and they draw like a little square in the asphalt, maybe like a 1x1 square. And then they have a little water nozzle. That's that 2,500 PSI water coming out of it. And then you have a gigantic vacuum. And you just suck up whatever you're moving out with the water until you find the gas line, ideally. And then you paint it on the road saying, hey, there's a gas line for sure right here, 3.5 feet down.
Yep. You expose it and makes everybody happy.
It's pretty slick.
It's super slick. I mean, some of those nozzles will cut through railroad ties. I mean, if you need to turn it up, like you can turn it up. But I mean, like I sell pumps for guys that are, 14 GPM at 4,000 PSI. I mean, ideally, you're not going to be running it at that. But if you have to, and you're in the clear, they'll rip for sure.
Well, the sign out in our front area there, the BuildWith sign, that was cut on a water jet table. So they
Basically
cut solid steel with it all the time.
Basically the same.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
So what's a combo truck?
A combo truck is like what you guys would see, like the elephant trunk.
Yes.
Municipalities have them with a big hose reel on the front. So they have like 600 feet of hose on the front, and then the big elephant trunk that goes down into the manhole. So yeah, they're the funny looking ones.
And what's it for? Is it for
jetting, sewer, and storm?
That's it.
Cleaning, sewer, and storm. Yep. Now, like I sell a truck, or Gavax builds a truck that you can put like an additional hydro excavation pump on the truck and dig separately. The idea is that when you have a big 80 gallon a minute pump on a truck, and you're necking it down to that little nozzle that's 10 gallons a minute, you're obviously overheating water and lots of other things. And so we do like a secondary pump for digging, where, you can do like minor potholing and things like that, repairing water main breaks or water leaks, whatever. So
when you say cleaning out sewer and storm, why do you need to clean out sewer and storm?
got to keep the toilets flushing.
Sure.
That's the basic answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, people don't get that. Like, I'm the one who's like, don't flush the wipes down. Like, you see them down there and they really just hang out. Like, these stories are real. So yeah, I mean, that's the basic answer. I wish that people, knew that and would recognize that. It's like, you don't understand why or how you flip the light switch and it comes on. Like, let's take
You
it
just
out.
expect that.
You just expect it, and you really don't realize how it happens. But
well, you flush the toilet, and from that point on, not my problem.
yeah,
But if your whole neighborhood backs up, it's very much your problem.
it is very much your problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's a basic function of life. People don't get that, and they see it's makes me so mad. But like, you have these guys out there like working away in the middle of the streets, and they're like, patrons come out and they're like, oh, it's so smelly. Get that truck away. Get that truck away. And I'm like, I don't think you understand. You caused this.
Yeah, this is your shit.
This is your problem. So like, you're talking shit about your own shit.
Yeah, it's like they're not bringing it out here to get to put down.
No,
They're getting rid of it.
You're trying to help you, bro. Like, this is a problem.
Yeah. You. I think most people never think twice about they flush the toilet, it disappears. It's just like magic. That's it.
Magical.
Yeah. So you sell these trucks primarily to municipalities.
Municipalities and contractors that work for municipalities, utility sector. Now, I have a little bit of a variation in my product line where I can sell the big hydro excavators and like the air machines. So like vacuum dry material, which is more coal, paper mill, your big contractors and stuff. But yeah, I would say my customer base has really shifted more towards municipalities as opposed to contractors. And I knew it would be a natural shift, but I obviously, my network of people came from the contracting side in rentals. So.
Do municipalities rent equipment? They just buy everything.
They buy everything.
Yeah.
I sort of wish that they would.
Yeah.
But no, because the process is just so slow. God bless. That's that's my issue with municipalities, is just a little bit slow. But I mean, when they're ready to spend, they're ready to spend. So it's nice. But
how did you get into the whole rental thing to begin with?
So I don't know if I've told you this before. I was in construction staffing before.
I did not know that.
I was the
Really?
one. Yeah. I was the one that would like tromp on to construction sites, like, and try to sell like anything from general labor to skilled labor. And that was interesting
So
in the beginning.
you would just show up at construction sites?
Yeah. And find superintendent.
No shit.
Guts.
Really?
And prior to that, I'm a relatively shy person. When you have me in environments that I like talking about vacuum trucks, then I'll talk, I'm extroverted. But as far as like learning how to really have guts, like that is what taught me to have guts.
Yeah.
Like I had to, or you would fail, literally. And realized I liked the construction industry pretty quickly, and then met the owner of Vac2Go just completely randomly, and was a startup. I sort of was like, oh my God, like vacuum trucks, they're like, this is environmental, just the range of things that they did, on working on power plants, like environmental, the environmental side, nuclear. I was like, man, this is a whole different world of just fun. Like my energy was like exuded I don't know. It caught my attention very quickly. Just put it that way.
Sure.
I have to cut out some of that. It went from there. So.
How'd you get a job with a construction staffing company to begin with? Was it just randomly?
I met her, the owner of the company, in Charleston, and actually sold her a piece of I posted a piece of furniture online and
Hmm.
sold her a piece of furniture, and she was like, would you be interested in like I like you. Like, would you be interested in coming to work for me? I was actually looking to move to Charlotte, and we had been talking about, where she worked, where she's from, all that stuff. And um just sort of hit it off. And I was like, yeah, I'll at least like look at it.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically just sort of explored around. There was obviously some time in between that where I was like, I don't know if I can do this. I think I'm too shy for construction, but yeah, it worked out.
What? So you'd walk onto a job site. Like, how would that play out?
I mean, quite literally, it was a function of driving up to the job site, obviously with PPE. And I mean, you had to be decked out and respectful
Yeah.
of everyone and not just like walking in the way of equipment. So there's an art to that.
Mhm.
To a degree, there were some connections there that, sort of spilled over, and you would say, hey, like, is it okay if I come and talk to you today or whatever? But I mean, sometimes it was like a straight cold call, like walking onto a job site. I mean, we did some sort of crazy stuff. Like I would like hop fences and stuff. Like it was not like there were times where it got a little rogue, but I actually had downtown Charlotte for part of my territory, or uptown, I guess is what they call it. And the higher profile ones are the ones where you're like, oh my God, like what am I gonna do here?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, it's, you get used to that, and you get used to the adrenaline of sort of, really going anywhere, like being able to go anywhere and talk to anyone. You like had to. And so it sort of sparked that, like, okay, there's a shorter road to the top
Mhm.
than I actually thought that there was. And the owner of Vac2Go was very good about that. I mean, as a startup for him, like switching over into the rental side, he taught us that, like, this is a startup. You are the space between getting to that next customer.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Did you get told to get fucked every once in a while?
I don't think I ever got like kicked off of a job site. Luckily,
That
I was
one of us.
pretty like in staffing, at least. Like I was pretty like aware of what was going on. Like
Yeah.
I tried to be as respectful as possible, because I knew that, like, especially if they didn't know me, I knew that like that was sensitive. But maybe I did like once or twice, but nothing too dramatic. So
In college, I used to do that a lot, where if there was a construction project I wanted to go see, I would drive up to the job trailer, go into the job trailer, and ask for the superintendent,
Yeah.
whoever it was. Or in Arizona, at least, you'll have these like permit signs on the fences out front for air quality. I think they're required to have the air quality permit
interesting.
on the fence, and they'll always have whoever's in charge of that job site, usually the superintendent, poor bastard, they'll have a cell phone number on the sign out front of the job site. So I would either walk into the job trailer or just call that number on the sign and be like, hey, I'm just a kid in college, like what you're doing, would love to see it at some point.
Yeah.
And most of the time it worked out pretty well.
I mean, they needed me.
Yeah.
They needed you.
Yeah.
They needed
Yeah.
workers. And so, like, once you sat down and showed interest in what they were doing and talked about the project or talked about the pictures of their daughters on the wall,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, okay.
Kids are a very good topic.
Yeah, for sure.
I've learned that's very good territory to wade into, because everybody loves talking about their kids.
This is so funny. I had a friend who was very, very good at what she did, but she always said, like, when I was like big and pregnant and I would tromp on these construction sites, like they would just let me in with open arms, like all the equipment would move out of the way. Like I sold more than I ever did when I was pregnant. But yeah, there's just like such a connection there. So funny.
Yeah. So you went equipment rental. At what point did you come? I know you said you were talking about Gavax a little bit. You started to see their product, high class stuff. when did you leave the rental world to go into the whole Gavax world full time?
So I started AQUIP October of 2018.
Okay.
So, like pretty shortly thereafter working, I mean, I worked at Back to Go for a few years, and then, you know, all of these sort of external things started going on. Like, you know, I was, I was more of like an industry gal back then, like, you know, and you create a much bigger network, and then you get sort of like the external validation of like, okay, hey, you can do this, or you have the opportunity here. But to start an equipment dealership, I was just like, wow, like that's a lot. Like I don't know if I can do that. Like that's just I don't know if that's me. And plus it you know, in my mind it sort of like limited me to that territory, but I mean, there's no way in the world I would change it, you know.
Sure.
When I first started it, I was like, oh, I don't know what I just got myself into, you
Well,
know.
how'd that opportunity present itself in the first place? Because that's a pretty big deal. You're going from, what was your job at the rental company?
I was sales.
So
I was
you're-
like an RSM and then director of sales.
So like sales manager, director of sales at a rental company, you go up at scale from 30 to 200 something trucks, which is pretty cool. But then the opportunity presents itself where you start an equipment dealership from scratch, which doesn't happen very much. So how'd that come about?
I mean, God, there's so many answers to this. You know, I think that it was a function of like just networking and loving the industry and just being surrounded by those people that sort of thought I could do it. Like there sort of a once in a lifetime opening for a territory for a vacuum truck dealership, because my competitors, if you look at my competitors, those companies are 50 years old. You know, I think maybe the youngest company is 30 years old. So I mean, yeah, it really sort of was luck, to be honest. It was, and Gavax was looking for dealerships. I had the camera line, the little robots that go down and inspect the pipes. Had an opportunity there, and just things started falling into place. And I was like, it almost backed me up against the wall, because I was like, I have to take this. Like, this is an opportunity of a lifetime. And got lucky and just boots to the ground. Went out there and did it, I guess, you know?
What was the decision like? Was it quick, or was it 3 months of thinking on it?
It was a little bit of a push here and there by a particular person or another particular person over here. It was like, oh, I have this opportunity and here's a little ding. And I'm like, you know, I'm like, no, this is not going to happen. I think because Proteus was actually my first product line. I think when Gavax came around the corner and they were like, we're interested in you starting this dealership, is where I was like, okay, like there's enough external validation, right?
Sure.
For me to be like, okay, these people actually have faith in me. I know I can do it. I know the product line well. I love the product line. And yeah.
So you were selling the cameras. Were you doing the cameras while you had a job?
No.
So you'd quit.
I quit completely. I quit cold turkey. I knew like my personality is just like, there's no way I could have been working on the side and then selling cameras. I knew that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
Sort of a no backup plan type personality. I knew that had to happen in order for me to succeed. And so I just quit.
These cameras are pretty slick. I've seen them. We work with, we work with the company Quality Enterprises and then Earthview in Florida. They're out of Naples. So Earthview, they do daylighting, they do ground penetrating radar, and then they have these camera trucks. So it's this freaking like Mercedes Sprinter van or whatever it is with an office inside of it. So it'll be some dude looking at computer screens with like an office chair. I mean, just full on office inside of this little Sprinter van. Then you open up the back, and they have the little camera that with the little crane that comes out and lowers the little guy down into the sewer or whatever it is. And it's just this cute little thing. It's this little, it looks like Wall-E almost. This camera on wheels, super expensive camera on wheels.
Very expensive.
That you put into sewers.
Yep. It literally like goes. It is a robot. There's a lot of cool motor torque. It is super high tech. I mean, the camera head itself, they're normally like 20 or 25 grand, just the camera head. They're going in really, really vulnerable environments, right? So they have to be tough, but you also have to realize there's electronics in there that has to be protected. There's a lot of things.
Do they float?
They don't float. Now there are like accessories that you can add that you can attach a camera head and they can float down like a larger flow pipe.
Sure.
And you can submerge them. They're designed to be submerged, right? But they're just not designed to swim.
But usually in a sewer line, it's not full. It's not like a pressurized line. So every sewer line's gravity fed. It's not under pressure. So you'll have only a small percentage of the pipe, ideally, has any kind of liquid in it whatsoever.
Well, technically, like NASCO is kind of like the OSHA, like the WJTA, like they control like surveying pipes, like coding and things like that. So like they're regulated and you can only like drop down in a pipe if they're like, I can't remember the percentages, but it has to be a certain percentage like clean in order for the inspection to get classified as complete or legible essentially.
So what explain the purpose of these cameras driving through pipes? Why do that?
So, you have to clean the pipes, obviously, with the big jet trucks. But the idea is that you pair the vacuum truck with the camera system. If you don't know that the pipe is clean or not, then what good did you just do?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's literally to go down and say, hey, like, this one looks great. It's clean. Or it can be, okay, we found a protruding tap that we need to go in and cut out. We found a blockage. We found this. We actually didn't clean it all the way. A lot of times we'll go on job sites and even just from an equipment standpoint to watch nozzles and, make sure they're cleaning appropriately. You can chase the nozzle with the camera and actually like view what you're cleaning. So that's, it's got to be clean, but you got to prove it.
It's all this stuff. We just talked about, it's so taken for granted, and it's a very thankless job. No one's going to say, thank you, my toilet flushes. But as soon as your toilet doesn't flush, people are like, why isn't my toilet flushing? This is kind of a problem.
Yeah.
It's like a job no one knows even exists.
No, and there's so many factors there. There's new pipelines, there's old pipelines. I've seen pipes like with wood on the side of them from like 150 years ago, like under railroads at power plants. Like people don't realize that, you take downtown New Orleans, for instance, like, those pipes have been there for a couple hundred years. And that might be the reason why your toilet is clogging up. And then on top of that, you're adding new infrastructure and, the roads are settling or whatever it may be. And there's just so many problems out there to identify. And let me tell you, it does not look good under there.
Yeah.
For the most part, like we have infrastructure problems under the ground for sure.
And that's the crazy thing is you start digging these things up and start seeing what these pipes look like. You'd think, everything's good to go. We're working good. Oh, I've seen some of these old water lines, sewer lines, storm lines. They are completely obliterated.
Oh yeah, done for.
And some of the water lines, you'll cut open a water line, pretty disgusting.
Well, you even have, sewer and storm sometimes run together. Like
combined sewer. Yeah,
like it's just stuff that, again, no one thinks about and has to be taken care of. There's
a particular route I run a lot of times in my neighborhood, and you'll go past where the storm drain inlets are, and it smells like very strongly like sewage.
Yeah.
So it's either combined or there's a problem somewhere.
Oh yeah.
But I've smelled sewage to know it's not as bad of a smell as you'd think it is.
No.
It's just like it smells like sewage. I don't know how to describe it other than it just.
Well, it's so funny. Like my friends like always laugh at me now because I've sort of like trained them to like notice things like this. But like you walk out of a restaurant and you're like, oh my God, it smells like sewer. Like something's wrong with that line,
Yeah.
there's definitely a unique, like, sort of, okay, I think that might be a problem.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, you gotta respect the sewer folks. That's for sure.
Well, we work at the company Sargent Corporation up in Maine, and there's a big project they're doing in Portland right now. It's combined sewer outflow elimination. So they have all of the sewer lines and all the old houses downtown Portland. They all drain right into the same stormwater line, and so all of that water is typically treated at the wastewater treatment plant. But when it rains, it outpaces what the wastewater treatment plant can take in.
Yeah.
So it outflows into the bay or river.
Yeah.
And they're building these big multi-million gallon tanks underground. And so there's these monster, basically concrete boxes that'll be under a soccer field. You won't even know they're there.
Yep.
To contain all of this stormwater runoff and sewage during a rain event so that afterwards the wastewater treatment plant can treat it all.
Yeah, I mean, that's happening everywhere right now. I mean, there's apparently like a big project going on in Louisville that is just, it's insane, but you don't hear about it. No one wants to keep that stuff hush hush. You know?
Yeah. Another one of our partners was involved in the Louisville one.
Yeah. Apparently that's a crazy project. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah. It's sewage. It's such a weird deal. So you were so you're selling these little cameras that buzz about down. And the interesting thing too is about cameras, you're talking about cleaning because that's the world you're in, but a lot of municipalities require that when you put in a new sewer line or storm line, they require camera footage of that whole line.
Yeah, you have to, I mean, you can even, measure the inclination. Like, if someone goes in and lays pipe in a new neighborhood or whatever, and they want to see if they have the pipe on the correct grade, and you can measure with these little guys too.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, it ranges from new construction all the way up as to what they can do.
And it's only becoming more and more common, isn't it?
Oh, I mean, it's not going anywhere. It's literally only going up. I can just, even from me starting 3 years ago, I can see the difference. You have so many bigger companies. I can think of one company, for instance, down in Augusta. They're a really great customer of mine. They started off in sort of this nuclear power plant, dry vac work, and they're seeing this whole new civil division where, hey, now we know we have to go in and do all this. We know we have to have sewer trucks. We know we have to have cameras. Like, this is how the vacuum truck industry is expanding. Hydro excavation is obviously a huge one. That industry is insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's no stopping it. And people they have to shift that way.
Well, it's a good industry to be in, because having a vac truck come out and daylight for you, for example, that's a lot cheaper than hitting a gas line.
Yeah. Google Fiber. It's one of those guys. You're screwed.
Yeah.
Google's coming after you.
Yeah. I mean, you hit a fiber line and sometimes it's thousands, tens of thousands of dollars every single minute that thing's down.
Yeah.
And they're not quick to fix. A fiber line?
No.
So it'll be down, for hours, days. That's millions of dollars in fines.
Yeah. Like I said, it's not going anywhere. It's literally, some of these yellow iron guys, and you see it already, will be forced to own hydro excavators just because, the ground is literally being filled every single day with something that's foreign that could possibly, injure someone or screw up a whole neighborhood, or, people are losing a lot of money if you don't have one.
Sure.
So
most of the companies I know now have them.
Yeah.
It's become standard.
Oh yeah, they have to.
So you started dealership from scratch. How the hell does that work?
I get this question a lot. I mean, as far as like funding goes, I mean, you obviously need a good bit of capital to like start an equipment business. I will say I was really limited on funds. Started off with savings and a little bit of money from just like, family stuff, but it got me by for maybe 6 months. I knew that I needed to sell a piece of equipment, and, the margins are good on equipment, especially when you're running super, super lean. and was pretty lucky out of the gate to have some equipment hit the ground pretty quickly. And numbers grew, looked pretty good on paper. And now it's, you get to that 3-year marker. I mean, when you get to the 3-year marker is when people really start to look at you. Social media is good for that now too, because it's like, okay, all these banker guys are watching the Gavax page. Like, how many trucks is AQUIP filing out of there?
Yeah.
So, I get calls from bankers all the time, and obviously being that I work with construction folks, and those guys are getting financing. It's not just the municipalities. So I'll have an enjoyable time with some of these bankers, and they'll be like, "Well, what about you?" So. It's a struggle. I mean, like getting capital is certainly not easy, and this business is insanely expensive to be, to start. But I started with very minimal, very, very minimal. People would probably be like, "You're freaking crazy for doing what you did."
Well, it is pretty crazy to I mean, a dealer, to build a dealership from nothing. That's pretty insane.
Yeah. I mean, I don't look at it as like, I think some people would say you had nothing, but I don't really look at it that way. I literally had it not been for the network of people that I had sort of acquired, and, you have this person here and this person there, and this bout of knowledge here, and this person who's been in the business for 50 years saying, do it, do it, do it. And you have all these resources who are humans and knowledge, and, I looked at it as, okay, like, what do you have to lose? Like, I literally had nothing to lose.
Yeah.
So.
How old were you when you started the company?
How old am I now? I was 30.
Yeah, at that point, there's not a whole lot to lose.
No.
Pretty wild, though.
Yeah, it was wild.
So by being a dealer for Gavax, are you the only person in your territory that sells new Gavax equipment?
Yeah, so I am the Carolinas and Georgia, soon to be Georgia. Actually, that's
right.
why I took the leap to Atlanta. Yeah.
Oh, you're in Atlanta now.
Yep. I no longer live across the street.
Well, I knew that, but for whatever reason, I thought you were over in Charlotte.
No. Well, my shop is in Charlotte.
Yes.
Yeah, my shop is in Charlotte. Well, it's technically Rock Hill, South Carolina. I don't want to pay those North Carolina taxes.
Yeah. But like a stone's throw from Charlotte.
Yeah, I mean,
roughly.
it's greater Charlotte.
Yeah.
When
did you get the shop? Not too long ago, maybe a year and a half ago?
I think I've had it for a year and a half. Yeah. It's in a great spot. It's down by the Blanchard Cat Mac dealership. Exit 73 off of 77.
Oh, yeah.
Mm.
Good old exit 73.
Rolls off the tongue.
Yeah.
It's a dream, really.
It's
exit
a dream.
73.
It's one hell of an exit. Yeah.
Yep. So.
And that space, you pretty much, it was an empty shop when you got it.
Yeah, they completely gutted this great little shop, and like pretty much set it up however I wanted it to. Added big bay doors and got a pretty good bit of real estate in the backyard there, and so plenty of room to park vacuum trucks.
Yeah.
So.
And that's where are you servicing trucks out of there now?
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing about Gavax. Here's the thing that I can't tell my customers all the time because they're like, "You're full of shit."
Yeah.
But, obviously 3 years in business, you got a fair amount of like new equipment on the ground. You don't really have a lot of things breaking per se. The Gavax product, I will say, like, knock on wood a little bit, I do wish that it broke a little bit more, to be honest.
It's a little too good.
It's a little too good. And that's a problem. It's a little bit of a problem. So, like, I mean, I'm ready for the equipment to get some age on it.
Yeah.
Because that's a hard salary to pay when you don't have a lot of stuff breaking.
Mm-hmm.
And my customers love to hear that. And they get that once they've had them for a couple of years, and they're like, "Oh, I've only spent, $5,000 on this truck in 3 years." And, they start looking at paper and, the back end of things. And they're like, okay, it's worth me paying a little bit more for this truck because holy crap.
Sure.
saving a lot of money. But yeah, I wish that it broke more.
Well, and that's, I mean, at least speaking traditionally, that's where dealers make a lot of their money.
Mhm.
They're like, you look at a traditional equipment dealer, I don't know about you guys, but the money made on a sale of machine is pretty minimal a lot of
Yeah.
times. It's when people like me roll their machines over at 17 hours
Mhm.
and it needs a full,
Mhm.
you know, $12,000 or whatever it is overhaul.
That what that was?
That's where they make their money. And that was, they didn't make any money selling the machine to me, but that's when it really comes into play. And not
Yeah.
just stupid people doing stupid things like me, but machines,
Mhm.
as they go on in hours and time, they start to break more. That's
Yeah.
just how it works.
That's just how it works.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at just, look at a car dealership, right? You see this lot and it's like all these cars, whatever, but then you have the lobby or whatever, the nice, pretty like glass windows. But then you ride down the road and you're like, holy crap. They probably spent $10 million on this service facility.
Yeah.
Like that's where they're making all their money. That's the idea behind a dealership.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the service end is supporting it all essentially. Yeah.
So you should have picked the worst product to sell them.
I should have picked the worst product.
Shoot.
Should have. Shoot.
Cut to you're like on job sites, like cutting lines and stuff. It's like, I need this to break down.
I'll happily vandalize equipment for you.
Please do.
Yeah.
Please do.
Yeah.
No, it's so funny because you go on these equipment demos in front of these municipalities. They have like 30 people there, and I tell my story, and that story is fine.
Mm-hmm.
But like the conversation of like, I wish that it broke more, or like it doesn't break a lot. They're like, shut up.
Yeah.
We don't want to hear that.
It's not very
The last guy said that.
You're like,
and
no,
I'm
this is bad for
but
me.
This is true. I've experienced it. I promise.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, careful there with my wording.
What's the spiel you give when you're giving a demo? How does a demo even work? Because like you said, you're selling mostly to municipalities.
Mhm.
So that's someone from like City of Charlotte or
Mhm.
whatever it is. They're
Yeah.
government people.
Yeah.
How does that work?
So literally drive up to the yard, park the big truck. We do like a 10-minute walk around, and then we go out and work the truck. So I normally have a guy with me that has a CDL. I'm really fortunate. I have, all of my product lines have an RSM that are kind of like responsible for dealers, right? And so they'll come out and help with demos, drive the trucks. Most of my guys have CDLs, like Eric Smith he's with Gavax. He's my RSM,
Mm-hmm.
and does a great job, by the way. And yeah, we go out, we do a 10 or 20-minute walk around with mechanics, fleet guys, bosses, operators, all the things. And yeah,
you get kind of I like the municipal world for this reason, in that they do involve kind of everybody in the spectrum
Mhm.
in that buying decision.
Mm-hmm.
It comes down to whoever's actually making that decision at the end of the day. But most contractors, for example, it's the equipment manager or it's the owner of the company saying,
Yeah.
yeah, we're just going to, based on most
Yeah.
of the time, whatever good deal they get,
Yeah.
I wish they would talk to their operators a little bit more about,
Mhm.
hey, what equipment is best out
agree.
here? Because they'd be way better off, in my opinion. But the government, to give them a bone, to throw them a bone, they actually kind of do that.
They do. Yeah. I mean, I think there's definitely a mix of that. I mean, for me, like I'm so used to the contractor mindset where I'm like, I know how to make sense of this truck for them.
Yeah.
And they're like, they're looking at numbers on the back end. They're looking at how much they're paying for these trucks on the back end. Sometimes the municipalities get a budget and that's their number.
Mhm.
Like you got to meet their number. And that's the problem that you run into. But yeah, I think that there's, like the city of Charlotte, for instance, like I applaud them because they truly give their operators, that they let them out there. They're like, tell us what you like about this, tell us what you don't like about it. And everybody is involved from top to bottom. Like there's not a demo as well, like on a lighter note or on a different note. There's not a demo that I'm not like, please bring the mechanics out.
Sure.
I need the mechanics to see these trucks. They're working on them all the time. And you got to remember too, like these guys are not, the mechanics for municipalities are not just working on vacuum trucks. They're working on everything,
Mm-hmm.
Trash trucks, like, oh God, woof, like everything. And so if you don't have their eye, in my opinion, you're done for. So I make a pretty strong effort to have those guys out there. But
It's pretty cool.
yeah. No, demo days are my favorite days. 1,000%. Just couldn't be more excited to be out there demoing, no matter what piece of equipment, not just vacuum trucks.
Yeah. Oh, you spend a lot of your time kind of, I don't know, for lack of a better term, it's like you're hitting the streets, you're hustling.
Yeah.
It feels like every time I look at your social media, like, shoot, she was just in Atlanta and now she's in Charlotte, and now she's in Nashville, and now she's in Atlanta, and now she's in Nashville, and now she's in Atlanta. Like I get around a lot.
Yeah.
But you are just on the road nonstop, it feels like.
Nonstop. That's literally all I do. It's on to the next, like checking in on a customer, going to the next city. I mean, I have like sort of like North Carolina is probably my most saturated state for where I have the most equipment.
Yeah.
But South Carolina has turned into a nice little spot. And now I have, whoa, what was that?
That was a blast
Every
next door.
time.
Yeah.
Nice.
Thanks for that advertisement for J.E. Dunn.
Yeah, there you go.
The
Jay Dunn,
the
what's
Jive
up?
Turkeys next door blasting
Yeah.
and shaking this building apart.
Yep.
Yeah.
You'd see some like mortar coming off the walls out there in the brick.
It's super cool. Thanks, guys. It's not even slightly according to what you should be doing, but we'll just roll with it. And I wasn't using their name before, but now it's just so ridiculous. It's J.E. Dunn.
They're like, they know Aaron is podcasting right now.
Yeah.
Here's my advertisement.
Not a fan.
Probably
So-
every other podcast we do in here that happens.
Oh, yeah. It's like 2 or 3 times a day.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I want to know what they're doing over there,
Well,
like specifically.
Poke your head over. Look at the hole they're digging. It's unbelievably huge.
Yeah, all the way down to the river.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm amazing they don't have more groundwater in that hole. But Tennessee's just straight up rock. So
Yeah, there's a lot of rock here. for sure.
anyway,
What were we saying?
you run around. South Carolina's a good market. North Carolina's saturated.
Yeah. State of Georgia is going to be new for me. I think Gap. I don't even know if I'm supposed to say this out loud. Surprise.
No one listens to this. You're fine.
Or at least my side of the industry. All the yellow iron people are like, "Who's this girl?"
Yeah.
But Georgia's going to be a new venture for me. I mean, I had a nice little contractor base when I was in rentals, but municipalities will be completely new for me.
Yeah.
So that's a totally different market. But yeah, I mean, I bounce around everywhere. Field time is the best time, right? It's like if I'm normally training people, going to visit customers, or doing demos. I very rarely get office time, which now has become very difficult. Got to have the office time, and I have a really, really hard time sitting there and like making myself do it. But you get to the point where you have to, and granted, I have a good many people there to help me at this point, but there's never enough help for that side of it.
It takes, and as the business grows, it's interesting how quickly your role can change, and it takes discipline too. Because it's like I like just being out in the field, and for again, lack of a better term, just fucking off.
Yeah,
sure, go to a coal mine. Totally, I'd love to go to a coal mine. I would do that full time, no questions asked.
Yeah.
But a lot of problems start to happen if I just do that. So I've realized, hey, okay, you've been traveling for 2 weeks. You need to stay home for a week.
You have to.
Because you got another job, and that job is actually running the company.
Yeah.
And I've tried to delegate as much as I can.
Yeah.
So I do such a small, I probably do less of running the company today than ever before, which is super cool. But everything, there's problems that happen if I'm on the road a little too much.
Yeah. I mean, I literally have to force myself to like stay in the office, go to the shop, or stay at my at-home office. It's totally necessary. It has to happen. Working on the business, not in the business all the time.
Do you get kind of itchy when you're having that office time? And it's like, gotta hit the road.
I think it's how I'm wired. You're probably the same way. Like, I think that you get, like, you don't feel like you're actually doing anything unless you're in front of customers, unless you're, out there boots to the ground. And I think it's wired in me. And, being able to say, okay, Anna, like this, you're actually doing good for your business to sit in front of the computer and do all of this work and talk to accountants and do this and that and the other. You can't be out in the field all the time.
Well, and even there's been this weird shift, especially the past year, where I'll spend time thinking
Mm.
and I'll feel super guilty about it because it feels
Yeah.
like I'm doing nothing.
Yep.
But that is increasingly, it's a larger and larger part of my job is just thinking, like, where do we need to go?
Yeah.
What opportunities are we not focused on where we need to be focused? How
Right.
can we be more efficient? How can we serve people better? And just ask questions about, hey, what are the problems of this industry, and how can we actually apply our business to solve some of those problems? And it seems you're not busy. You're not doing. You're
Right.
not, oh man, I did so much today.
Mm.
You're not crossing all these items off a list, but oftentimes you're creating more value for your business just sitting and thinking
Yeah.
than doing.
Well,
It's weird.
yeah, I mean, I always say, and I feel like in this industry, people are like, "What? What are you talking about?" But you got to stay creative. Creativity comes in so many different forms and fashions. Like it's not like, okay, like that color looks good on that wall over there. Like defining creativity is it's infinite. How that's defined, especially in business. If you're not growing and stretching and being creative and finding a little different pocket over here to make this little pocket over here grow, then you're dead in the water,
Sure.
Like it's not going anywhere. Your business is not going to grow, You can't do the same things every day. Like I'm in a totally different spot than what I thought I would be, 3 years ago. And there's gratitude in that. And then there's also like, wow, like this is how many times this business is going to change. And this is how many times I have to adapt and pivot, just like COVID. People are like, wow, you're the little guy in the midst of COVID and, everybody's trying to survive. And this is happening with supply chains and this and that and the other. Like COVID was like a launch for me, like I got so excited. Like it was so exciting to be out there and to be able to maneuver a little bit differently and sort of not compete with the same sort of people doing the same sort of things. But a lot of those guys sat back on their heels. These
Yeah.
guys that are 50 years in business, they're like, oh, we're going to get that PO. They didn't know who I was.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, woohoo, here's my time.
Well, we talked to some folks at some of the big manufacturers.
Yeah.
They still haven't traveled
Yeah.
in almost 2 years.
It's insane.
And we took 6 weeks off and maybe even less than 6 weeks and started May 1st, 2020 again, just full bore,
Yeah.
full bore. Cause it's like, I can't afford to hang out at home.
Right.
I eat what I kill. I need to go out and kill
Yeah.
or else I don't eat. And more importantly, everybody I support, they don't eat either.
That's right.
And it's a different mentality. And you can frame the whole COVID thing as, oh, poor me. Oh no, what are we going to do? Oh, there's so many obstacles. Or you can say, holy shit, this is one of the single biggest opportunities that I could have ever seen in business early on. And I am going to absolutely kill this thing to the best of my ability because I know everybody else is just hanging out and saying, oh, COVID this, COVID that, or, oh, just excuse.
Yep.
And we said, no. We're going to work twice, 3 times as hard as we were before because I know everybody's hanging out. This is my opportunity to get way ahead of everybody. And it worked.
It worked. That's exactly what we did. Twice as much, 3 times as much.
Yeah.
I was out there, like even Eric Smith, my RSM with Gavax, I keep referring to him, but he was like, you're literally demoing like 5 times as much as my other dealers. Like, and I'm like,
Yeah,
well,
dude.
you got here's
like,
your opportunity.
I got to.
I
you're
have
driven
to.
that.
Like I was 2 years in business. I had to. And people were sitting back in their offices bored. Like they're like, hell yeah, please come in. It wasn't
Sure.
like they were masked up and like scared to death of everybody. I mean, sure, certain people were at home, but they were dying to get out in the field and do equipment demos.
Well, and
It's like pick me.
all these people that serve the construction industry, municipalities, infrastructure, whatever it is, that hung out for 2 years and just sat in their offices at home, it's super, super tone deaf, in my opinion. Because how many of those people at the municipality stopped working? None. They didn't miss a single day.
Toilets don't stop flushing.
No. People didn't stop shitting while COVID happened. They're like, yeah, I'm going to take a break using my toilet.
Nope.
No.
It got worse.
It got worse.
There was
It got worse. And it's not like, for the sake of, infrastructure, all the coal miners we support, all the power plants, all the airport construction went through the roof, road construction went through the roof, all of these critical infrastructure that our economy depends on every single day, none of that stopped at all.
Nope.
And so that's where I looked at, okay, hey, I need to support my business, but the industry hasn't stopped at all.
No.
And I need to keep pace with that. And I need to listen to what they're doing and what their needs are.
Yep.
I don't understand how people just lived under their rock for 2 years in this world. I get it. Okay, you're at Silicon Valley, you're at Google. It doesn't matter if you're at home or the office. That's fine.
Yeah.
But if you're supporting the critical infrastructure of the country, you
don't
didn't have
stop.
a choice.
No. Nope. I also credit Ed Milet for this a little bit.
He got me all fired up too. Yeah.
Because he's like, now's the time. He was like, this is where entrepreneurs thrive.
Yeah.
Like, come on. Like, you can do this. And I'm like, okay, come on. All right, Ed, I kind of needed that talk.
Oh, yeah.
So it was a little bit of him too.
Well, he gives that talk too every year around this time.
Yep.
Holidays.
Yep.
Hey, everybody's
Those
hanging
are the good
out.
ones.
Oh, it's the holidays, or
Yep.
I can have a little bit of this peppermint bark or whatever. Or I can just take a load off or this and that. He's like, now's the time to get ahead while everybody's hanging out.
That's right.
And you think about it, shit, yeah, there's a lot of value in that.
Yep.
And then, but people like to be told, no, just chill. Just, hey, you've been working, like Anna, you've been working so hard all year. You've been doing great. Just hang out for a little bit.
No.
That's not how it works.
No.
It's not how, but it makes people feel good. Oh yeah, no, I should take a break.
It like gives them permission to like sit back on. Once someone has permission to sit back on their heels, they're going to do it.
Yes.
And so the people that are sort of the in-betweeners that are like, screw that. Like,
No.
here I come.
It doesn't.
And again, it goes back to like also being the little man and the new guy and like bobbing and weaving and sort of keeping up. Like, competitors are 50 and 30 and however many years old. Like, they're going to get the POs anyway.
Yeah.
I'm getting what's falling off the trees. I'm just out there shaking them, seeing what I can get, and it works. Works.
Well, and it's one of the things I've studied over the past year or two in business is warfare. You might have actually been the one that told me about these books.
Robert Greene.
And he has, have you read the one War?
I haven't read that one all the way through.
Just one of the most insightful books I've read, period.
He's incredible.
It's a chore.
Yeah.
It's not some book you just pick up on a Saturday and have fun with.
You have to like have had a cup of like a million cups of coffee. I was going to say pot of coffee.
Yeah.
Couldn't get the word out.
It's like a 3-month project. But a lot of it is, okay, if you're a small army going up going up against a very well-equipped army, you can't just meet head on in the battlefield. It doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work that way.
You need to find all of those little things and those little advantages.
That's right.
And grab a hold of them to give you the upper hand that they don't necessarily have. So that's your hard work, your speed, your agility, your ability to work through COVID. You didn't have to go to corporate for approval to, hey, boss, can I go do this demo? It's like, if you need to do it, you need to do it.
You go do it. Yeah. Yep. Got to be able to pivot. I'm on his daily laws book right now, which is like quite literally, it's a daily like sort of read, but it's good. It's good. I've only worked my way through like a month of it though, but he's impressive. Like, I wish that you have to read his stuff like multiple times to be able to consume it all. I mean, I don't think you can ever really consume it all, but you can always learn from it, obviously.
Yeah.
And it applies, but he's incredible.
It is. They're just really dense.
Yeah.
The amount of research he does.
Well, it's like the historical references, right? You're like, oh God, King Henry. Like, I don't want to hear about King Henry, but I get it.
It's like you go from King Henry to Charles Darwin to Adolf Hitler in a span of a chapter. And you're just like, oh, like, dude, I did not pay attention in history class.
I need to go back and reread that like 37 times.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to the bathroom real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
Bathroom break.
Bathroom break.
And we're back.
Yeah, we're back.
We're back.
Has social media helped you out? because you're selling to the government, so you'd think it'd be pretty marginal.
I mean, I love the interaction of social media and like the attention that it gets. And I probably should be, actually, I know I should be on there a good bit more, relative.
Yeah.
As far as municipalities goes, no. On the like Instagram side, maybe LinkedIn a little bit. We're a little behind even the construction side, the yellow iron guys on social media, but I'd like to change that. I mean, that's one thing too, aside from boots on the ground style, sales approach or whatever you want to call it, growing the business. That's one side that I would like to have my foot in the water a little bit more on, but I don't have as much time for that.
It's definitely one of those things where you can't just like add it on top of what you do at this point. Maybe there was a time where you could.
Yeah. In the
But
beginning,
now it's
it was
like you have to carve out a space. Something has to go.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing that I enjoy more than like a good vacuum truck photo.
Sure.
Like,
Tell me
God,
about it.
just,
Yeah.
It really drives traffic.
It really,
You have some good photos.
there's some good ones on there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I just like, I don't get enough of them. Like he was asking me for like a headshot earlier, like some sort of like shot of me, working. And I'm like, I'm the only one that takes photos. No one takes photos of me, so I wish that there was someone who, like a minion that I had that could be able to like create content around AQUIP more, like follow Peter around or follow Eric around.
Yeah. That's what I got to the point where I hired a minion, Mr. Matt Briscoe.
God, I need a minion.
Yeah. You need a Matt Briscoe. It's just, it's amazing. It's amazing. I have to put up with his shit every time I travel.
Yeah.
But he puts out some pretty good stuff.
Yeah.
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 And I know for sure he listens to these podcasts because
He does.
going to the content, he has to listen to the podcast to take clips of some of the rare points in which I say something mildly cohesive and intelligent.
Yeah.
He takes that out, puts it on the internet. People actually enjoy it.
Boom. There it goes. Oh, and by the way, being called a minion is a compliment. So there you are, friend.
Oh, yeah.
I mean it as a compliment and also not as a compliment.
I mean,
Yeah, he wants Matt to know he's both valuable and beneath him.
it's one of those things where it's like it's a passive compliment, but it makes you think a little bit. You're like, oh, I don't know if I don't know if I want to be called a minion. But I think it's great.
Yeah, this summer too. He's like 19 or 20.
Yeah, he just turned 20.
He just turned 20. He can't legally drink yet. and he has like this life crisis where he's like, man, I just don't know if I'm doing enough for my career and this and that. And it's like
he's going to college full time and works here full time.
Yeah. Matt, shut the hell up. Like, you're doing just fine, dude.
God, society, like stop following. That's another thing. Get off of Instagram. You're doing enough. It's like, come on.
It's I guess something else I wanted to talk to you about. There's a lot of women in the industry. That's a whole big thing right now. And I've talked every time. I talk about it all the time because I still haven't quite figured it out yet. Like, how the fuck does this work?
Yeah.
Because historically, not very many women in the industry. And in your world, probably, yeah. You're
like negative,
probably
basically.
like a snow leopard.
Yeah.
However, we have this workforce problem. And I mean, it's like, well, we're ignoring half the population, guys. Probably should think about this.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what I'm talking about, but to me, math checks out. What's like, I don't know, what's your advice to women getting into the industry? Has it ever even been a factor for you, or have you just ignored it?
God, I could answer this question in like a bajillion different ways.
We have time. We can
do them all.
Do all bajillion.
Like, I think I sort of have to like step back in time a little bit. Like, I was brought up in the environment where like we were in the blue collar industry, the fertilizer plant industry. Like, I was with men all the time, every day. Like, my like quote unquote brothers / neighbors across the street, like with them all the time. All of my best friends were men. So like, I never saw that. And my parents never taught me to see the difference. Now, they're clearly at 30 years old and, working in the heavy equipment business and all the things that come along with that. Like, there's a there are struggles for sure. I think that when I first started out in this business, in the vacuum truck side, just like you almost have to like know more than other people. And I mean that in the sense of like, hey, customer, like you're really good at what you do. I really want to learn what you do, how you do it, because I don't know shit.
Yeah.
Like being vulnerable, admitting to not knowing, admitting that like maybe, I can't do all the things that a man does. Like, let's be honest. Like I can't go pick up that 500-pound water pump. Like somebody else got to go do that, or a machine, whatever. But yeah, I mean, there is a little bit of, you kind of have to do your research and know your shit a little bit more. That's just the nature of the beast. But, it's like, to me, this is my experience. It's so fascinating. There's so many facets of it. There's so many problems that like get swept to the side that, oh, this is the way we did it 30 years ago. We're going to do it the same. No.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work that way. And if you have a little bit of edge and you can deal with it a little bit, then, and you're curious, you can work your way through it. That's for sure. And again, I attached myself to people that I annoyed the heck out of. Like my mechanic down in Rock Hill, with Vac2Go, he was just a wealth of knowledge, but also one of those people that they keep it close to the chest. And you have to pester the shit out of them to get information. But like when they finally see like, hey, like, I know that you know more than me. You're super, super knowledgeable. You could like, I want you to be my mentor. When you compliment, you're complimenting someone. Like they ultimately want to tell you, what they know.
Sure.
And I just literally spider monkeyed people. Like, not a joke. Like Darren, like shout out to Darren for putting up with me for so many years, but I just spider monkeyed him.
It is interesting. It's a dichotomy because you need to prove yourself. And hey, I'm not a total asshole. I kind of know my way around. And I've had to do this too. You show up on site with a camera and they're automatically like, fuck you. You don't work nearly as hard as we do. You're not worth anything to me. And so you have to massage you have to drop a little bit of knowledge to indicate to them like, I know what's going on here. But then also there's that whole curiosity side
drop the ego a little bit. You gotta drop the ego a little bit.
Not in a disingenuine way, but it's you got to massage their ego and hey, I really don't know what's going on here.
Yeah.
And, like, what are you doing? Tell me about that.
Yeah.
It's a weird balance between those two things.
Yeah.
Because they're at total opposite sides of the spectrum.
Yeah. Yeah. You're constantly proving yourself, but who's not constantly proving yourself? Like, I certainly like, it's tough for women. Especially like, even for me, like starting off early, like the validity thing was like, it was super challenging. You leave a company that you love and you're with people that, hold the same desires, goals, whatever, and are really passionate about that company. And you have all this external validation of, people in your industry that mean a lot. And then you flip into a new business where, holy crap, like external validation doesn't mean anything anymore. So there's a fine line. It's like, okay, where's the personal validation? Where's the old Anna that started off this, this many years ago and now has to move her way forward with just like what she has in here, just the guts, and we're all the same. There's no gender difference there. Like it's just, but yeah,
it's probably as long as you have the ability to deal with it up front, it's probably quite an advantage overall.
Yeah.
It's like right now, it's just a good time to get into the industry, period. But to be a woman in the industry, if you know how to navigate that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not to say it's like, well, you guys have a better, like, no, don't get me wrong. Yeah. Way more difficult than just some dude. but it's probably, you can probably use it in a good way.
So, one of my mentors / one of my like bigger customers, who basically like put me on the map. He was my customer. They were my customer in rentals. And now with AQUIP, like he's always like, I just feel like they listen to you more. And he was like, get past the initial, like, okay, this is a woman and we rarely see women, whatever. He was like, when you talk, people listen. And of course, I don't know. That's what he tells me. But I do think that there is an advantage of like, okay, shock factor. There's a woman who knows what she's talking about and we might ought to listen. Like, or they're just curious to see if she like knows what she's talking about. I think that that's an advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whether they're rooting for you or against you,
Yeah.
either way they're listening.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. Like they're believe me, they're going in and they're like, nope, you're not coming in here. And then they're like, oh shit, I have to listen, don't I? Yeah. Or I'm going to get the eye from boss man in the background. So yeah, I have that to my advantage. Now the government side can be interesting because they really there's really not a lot of women over there. So that's, that can be a challenge sometimes for sure. Like they're, sometimes the referral basis is sort of nice because they're like, okay, she's done this, she's done that. Like we're welcoming her in.
Yeah.
And then you have like the new guys that are, maybe smaller towns, smaller municipalities where they're not getting a lot of attention and they're definitely not getting like women coming in there. So yeah, those can be tough situations.
Are municipalities a little bit more archaic than contractors are?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Big time. Like, well, not big time. I mean, there are certain municipalities that have for sure made some serious advancements and are, growing, they realize that culture is now like very important. Whereas before they were like, okay, hey, here's your government salary and here's your retirement plan. And like, you should be here for forever. And you see that a lot, but you certainly see them growing a little bit more. Contractors are certainly moving a little bit faster in that direction because they have to. Well,
municipalities are going to have the same workforce problem as everybody else is.
That's right.
It's, this isn't something I'll say very often, but I was out in California, Southern California, and I spent some time with LA County sanitation, and the guy over there, and spent time with the equipment division, and David over there, incredibly progressive and very, very impressive.
Yeah.
So, okay, California, you guys banning your like leaf blowers and everything like that, get the hell out of here. But the stuff they were doing was actually quite exciting and quite forward thinking and quite progressive. And they were leveraging their position as the government in a very positive way. And they could do things that a contractor couldn't necessarily do from a cost standpoint quite yet. From a smart equipment management standpoint.
Yeah.
And it's like me as a kid, shoot, I would go to work for them because that's pretty exciting.
They have a lot of resources too. I mean, these big cities, these big municipalities, they have a ton of resources, and they go in and they do research. Like I'm pretty sure LA sanitation has quite a bit of Gavaxes, and I think I may be wrong here, but quite a bit of research on cost of ownership in comparison to like certain manufacturers with vacuum trucks and here on out, like not nozzle production, like whatever. Those guys have a ton of resources. So, you can't, and, of course people want to test out their stuff on them. And, ultimately we are out in the field in sort of a research and development environment, and, knowledge is power. Right. So, but yeah, some of these bigger cities are super fortunate.
Yeah, I guess there's different classes of municipalities too. It's like City of Charlotte, I'm sure, freaking loaded compared to the city of, I don't know, some random town in South Carolina with no budget whatsoever, like Orangeburg. Orangeburg is actually a decent size. I'm talking like real small.
Yeah. I actually have a camera in Orangeburg. Shout out.
Good old Orangeburg,
Good old
South Carolina.
Orangeburg. Yeah, they own a little Proteus, little bot.
Nice.
Yeah, good folks down there.
Nice.
But yeah, I mean, city of Charlotte is so, I mean, they're so advanced. And, you know, you go out and hang out with them in the field and they're like, yeah, we use this certain nozzle because like this, like we saw the most production here and we've studied, you know, this many, and this one was the one that produced this many results. And, you know, like we're looking at this truck and we see that, you know, we're spending this, and this, and this, and this is under a project. Like this vacuum truck is under a project name, and we know how much we're losing. We know how much we're gaining. And then we have this truck over here. I mean, they see everything. They want to see everything. And again, they have the resources to do it. So yeah, I mean.
Well, they become your R&D department.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, hey, I have 5 new nozzles that I want to come and test out. Can we go and put them in a acrylic pipe and look at the, you know, let's see what's up, you know, and, you know, they want to. Of course they want to.
Sweet.
So, yeah.
If people want to find you online, see what the heck you do, where do they go?
AQUIPco.com and then AQUIPco for Instagram. So Anna Johnson, AQUIPco on LinkedIn. Yeah.
Sweet.
I also have Facebook too.
Facebook.
AQUIPco.
Yeah, but you ever go on Facebook?
No.
I accidentally, I'll be on my phone and I'll accidentally hit the Facebook app sometimes, and it'll take me to Facebook. No, I don't want to go to Facebook. No, God,
don't do it. I know. I always end up deleting my Facebook app just because I'm like, oh man, it just the interface is like, whoa, it's so old and dated. But I have 25 messages on my AQUIP account, and I'm like, oh no, I forget that people are still on there.
I completely ignore it. And
you would not believe the amount of Facebook messages
they're
the Build
mad.
It page gets.
They're
really?
Oh, they're all useless.
Oh
yeah.
I don't go on there. But
There's
even my
nothing real.
personal, it'll be like one of my friends' moms will be like, yeah, I sent you a message on Facebook. You're like, I'm really sorry I didn't get back to you, but I don't go on Facebook. I don't know what to tell you. But that's the weird thing about Facebook is you have all these, not like old, but like older than, you know, past like my dad, for example, in his 60s, he's just living it up on Facebook.
Yeah.
But Instagram or anything like, no, thank you. But I look at Facebook, I'm like, dude, Instagram is 100 times simpler than Facebook.
So much prettier.
So much prettier. You just scroll, you double tap. That's all you need to know. But then you go to Facebook, it's this whole world that is very complex. I don't want anything to do with it. But yet, for whatever reason, they love it.
They love it. I don't get it.
Not a big believer.
Me either.
Anyway, well, thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate you guys having me. I
Sure.
did not expect it. So I
Didn't expect
appreciate it.
When did you reach out?
Maybe a month ago. Maybe
Yeah.
Did he just reach out randomly? Like,
Yeah,
hey,
he sent it
what's
to
up?
my
name's
info
Alex.
email, and I
blame
blurted-
Aaron. That's
Classic
the email he
info.
gave me.
Really?
I think so.
Oh,
It
info-
doesn't matter.
like a long time. I just made a list of like a lot of people. Like, hey, all of these people would be quite interesting for the podcast.
Yeah.
And
There were plenty of
You were
first
there.
name from
Thanks.
place. I'm like,
I'm
okay,
honored.
I need more information.
Yeah, I'm super honored. Seriously, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Good work.
well, that's that, man.
Cool.